If you just stick with the movies, you would think that you should always stand when you're off-road. So much so that many of the schools that are out there teaching people, a lot of the websites, a lot of the, well, just the different sources you have, say you should always, always, always stand up off-road. I can assure you there are proper times to sit down, but there is a proper way to sit, just like there's a proper way to stand. When we sit on the motorcycle and we're just riding along on a hard gravel road or on the pavement, a 50-50 balance between the bike is perfectly acceptable. That's what it should be. If I'm sitting on the back seat on the back of the motorcycle, my arms are stretched out and my weight is more towards the back of the bike. That's going to make the front of the bike feel less stable and steer more. This is exacerbated by the use of knobbies. By moving forward on the saddle and sitting all the way up against the tank, that helps shift your weight towards the front. It gives it a slight bias towards the front wheel that makes the bike feel a lot more stable, and it'll respond much quicker as well and more proper the way it's designed to respond. Off-road, I don't really care what's happening in the back, at least not a lot. I really care about what's happening in the front. Most of the time, I want to have a bias towards the front wheel, which means if I can get forward over the bike, not just sitting up next to the gas tank, I can still stretch my arms out and this would be improper. I can move forward up over the front of the steering axis on the bike. That forward motion helps get some of my mass up and over that front tire. That provides more traction and makes the bike more stable. The additional advantage of moving forward on the bike is also the movement left, right, forward, and back, which means if I'm in a position where my elbows are running roughly a 90-degree bend, that's going to allow me to absorb bumps coming into me and also allow me to extend as things drop out underneath me. If I'm not standing, I need to allow that bike to rock underneath me as it goes through the terrain. I also need to let that bike go left and right. When I'm on the motorcycle, the bike should be able to move left and right. Those elbows should be able to extend without my body moving. I should be able to stay in this position and just let that bike move underneath me. I'm always remaining directly over the contact patch where the tire touches the ground. If I go into the corner and I lean into the corner, I want to make sure that I look down, I can see that traction right there on the ground. If that bike leans into the corner and I can't see where that tire is touching, I'm leaning in with the bike. We have a tendency to do that as street riders. When we're on high traction off-road surfaces, hard pack gravel, hard pack dirt, dry days, we tend to lean with the motorcycle because the traction's very high and it starts feeling like it's the same as being on pavement. The problem is if we start to slide and I'm leaning into the corner with the motorcycle, if I lean in that direction, the back or the wheels, if they slip, they're going to slip out and away from me. And that means recovering is almost non-existent. The bike's going to slip out from underneath me, I land on the ground. If instead I let the bike roll underneath me, that means that if this bike moves this direction, I'm already outside of the motorcycle. So now the motorcycle is moving into me. And that gives me a much, much better chance of recovery. Standing is correct most of the time when you are fearful and you want to sit. Deep gravel, mud, deep sand. Those are the environments when sitting is not the best place to be. Paddle walking is really a bad choice unless it's absolutely unavoidable and you've already lost control. Anytime you can get back up on the pegs, you can stay on the pegs, that's going to be the best place to be. Where sitting is correct is when you need to rest. These are long stretches of gravel, long stretches of dirt. You can do this in the sand as well for a very long extended period of time. When I was riding through the Sahara and the West Sahara, I spent a lot of time in the sand. I wasn't going to stand non-stop forever. In Mauritania, it was so deep I had to stand or I wasn't in control. But in Morocco, it wasn't so bad. I was able to sit and let that bike move underneath me, but I still have to let the bike move freely, even from a seated position, because I am giving up some control. And there's a whole other video that I need to make just for standing so you understand that. Standing up, if you don't know what you're doing, can actually make things wrong. If I stand and all I do is just stand straight up, just like this, well, the problem with that is I'm now extended, I'm stiff on the bike's not going to move freely underneath me. All I'm doing is raising the center of mass at that point. That's not going to help me at all. Rest, sit down. When I do training tours, when I do international tours or guided tours, most of the time we spend sitting on the motorcycle because we're relaxing, we're touring. We stand when things get exciting. If you come to an adventure camp or do one of my adventure training tours, we will do training days and training events where I'm going to encourage you to spend most of your time standing, just because we need to develop that skill set so it's a default. That when things get really scary, when you get really nervous, the natural tendency is to stand up rather than to sit down. But in reality, the way we really travel, we're going to spend far more time sitting than we want to give ourselves credit for. There are differences between all of us as riders. Some of us don't have the strength, or we have certain limitations, bad knees. There's different reasons why a rider may need to sit more than somebody else. And if you're led to believe that if you're not able to stand, that you can't ride off-road, then you're being led in a bad direction. If you're being taught that you can stand to have better control and to ride through more challenging environments, then absolutely that's correct. Next time somebody asks you, whether you should stand or sit, the answer should never be yes or no. It should always be, well, that depends. What are you doing? Where are you riding? What kind of bike do you have? How long are you riding? Do you have any physical changes? If you're not being questioned, or you're not questioning that other person about what other factors are involved, then any answer that is an absolute yes or no, no matter what, that's an uneducated response. We're supposed to ask questions before we give guidance. That's it. Brett says, yes, it's okay to sit. And with that said, I'm going to take a nice, relaxing ride. And according to the weather predictions, it's almost time to put knobbies back on the bike and take these street tires off.